Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Lizzie, and for today's video, this is actually a collab. I'm actually collabing with Danny from Horror Addicts, so I am super excited for this video. So I actually got inspired for the idea for this video and to collab because I saw this post on Facebook that was talking about remaking great films, remaking good classics, but what about remaking bad films? And both me and Danny agreed with that post, so I reached out to him and was like, hey, what are your thoughts on doing a collab where we both pick 5 bad films that we feel like should get remade? This ended up actually being a lot harder than I thought it would be. I kind of did some research, looked at, websites that have lists of their own, and a lot of them kind of have a lot of the same films, and I didn't necessarily agree with all of them or necessarily had seen every film on those lists. And a lot of those lists were, you'd have bad horror films that I didn't necessarily think needed remade, or you would have films that people said should be remade that I didn't necessarily agree with. So I ended up just kind of picking a couple of horror films that I personally am not a big fan of. All of these I've actually reviewed on my channel, so I will try to remember to leave links for each of them, but I picked out 5, Danny picked out 5 of his own, so together there will be a list of 10. I will make sure to give you guys a link to his channel. Make sure you check out Horror Addicts. I'm sure most of you are already subscribed to them, but if you are not, make sure that you are. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and just get into these. Some you guys may or may not agree with, but I'm just gonna go ahead and get into it. So the first one I have is Black Sunday and or VIY. These are 2 separate films, both ones that I reviewed for 101 Days, but they follow the same storyline. They are both based off of the same short story called VIY, which is about and depending on which film you watch or which story you're following, is about either a witch or a vampire that is killed, a woman that is killed, and she comes back to seek her revenge. And I liked the concept of both films. Black Sunday deals with a witch woman, and I believe VIY, she's a vampire. And I love the concept of these films, of this woman coming back to seek her revenge, but unfortunately I didn't like the way either of these films played out. Black Sunday is definitely a more loosely based version. I believe VIY is closer to the short story version, so I would love for the original story to get a new updated version. I don't believe that there's been anything new. Both of those are pretty old. So yeah, I would love a updated version of that story. The next one is The Beyond. This is a film from the 80s, and again, I watched this one for 101 Days before, and it is about a woman who inherits a hotel. She really has no interest in staying there, but she starts to renovate it, and for anybody who knows anything about ghosts or demon or hauntings of any sort, you know that once you start to renovate something, that definitely disturbs the spirits, and that is what happens. Weird stuff starts to happen, and eventually she comes to the realization that this hotel that she's inherited is built on top of a gate to hell, and it is a fantastic concept that did not play out well. I was not a fan of this film. This film does not have high ratings online either, and I would love to see this redone, especially I think with the CGI that we have nowadays. I personally am more of a fan of old school FX, but this film just didn't do a very good job of it either, and I just think that you could definitely remake this film and be better for today with the technology that we have today. Now the next one is Hour of the Wolf, another one that I watched for 101 Days, and I was actually pretty excited for this one. It is a Swedish film, which has absolutely nothing to do with why I didn't enjoy this film. I do not mind having to read captions or films or foreign films. Like, that was not an issue for me with this. And I would not mind if it was remade as still a Swedish film. But this film is about a couple that go to their summer home on an island, and the husband starts to have weird delusions and starts seeing things, strange things start to happen, and eventually you find out, sorry, spoilers, should have warned spoilers for the films I talk about, but you find out eventually that all of this weird things that are happening are due to cult activity on the island. Now, the concept isn't exactly new these days, but I do think that a remake could do a better job of laying out the story. The original felt too long. I also didn't feel like there was enough of the delusions in this film, and I just felt like kind of the cult activity was a bit of a disappointing excuse for the activity going on in the film, or at least what activity we did see going on in the film, and I would love to just see it remade with, you know, getting to see more of the delusion and maybe a different ending. Next film is In the House of Flies. Now, this is a film I actually got in a horror block. If any of you remember horror block from way back in the day, I just did a general review of this one, and I was excited going into it. The cover art for the movie looks really good. It's also the concept for it. It is about a couple who suddenly find themselves abducted and locked in a house, and they have to play a series of games created by their abductor, and I was super excited to watch this one, and unfortunately I was just let down by it. I don't think that it played out very well, also was a bit long itself, and overall just really didn't enjoy this one, unfortunately. Now, this film is not that old. It's not as old as these other ones. It was only released in 2015, so may seem a little early for a remake, but I still love the concept and idea of this film. I just feel I would just like to see it done better. Now, for the last film on my list, this may be one that you guys might not agree with. I know some people are definitely not going to agree with me on this one. Please no attacking me for it. I have also reviewed this one on my channel, and that is The Monster Squad. Now, I understand that this is a film that holds a special place for a lot of people. It is nostalgic. A lot of, you know, people watched this film when they were younger, growing up, and it got them into the world of spooky, and I respect that. But I am not one of those people. This is one that I missed growing up, along with like Fright Night. Though I did like Fright Night, but I missed the boat on this one, so it doesn't hold that nostalgia feeling for me. And I honestly, there was a lot about that film that I didn't like, and I understand that it's from the 80s, so some of the language, if you want more in depth about that, you can watch my review. But I think that but I would love to see this film remade, and I do understand that you do have to give this film credit for the kind of concept of kids fighting monsters. That's really responsible for that, and I definitely respected that. And I do understand that we have had quite a few films, especially more recently, with similar concepts. I mean, you have It, which is obviously also a remake, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. But I think that if you remade this film, you kept to the exact concept of the film, a group of kids fighting classic movie monsters, I think that it could definitely reach for people who love some of the former films that I just mentioned. And of course, the people who grew up loving this film, I'm sure you guys would go to see that as well. But I think that it would still be a different enough concept to stand out and be unique in itself. And I think that with the nostalgia of the 80s and these kids fighting monsters films that we've had, it would do really well. And I would definitely love to see this one remade. So there you guys have it. That is my list. I hope that you did enjoy this. If you did, please do give it a big old thumbs up. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button for more horror related content. Let me know what are some of the horror films that you think should be remade in the comments below. Make sure you go ahead and head over to Horror Addicts to check out Danny's list. And I will see you guys again later with another video. Bye!